If you've ever invested in stocks, I bet you've tried timing the market. On paper, it sounds easy: buy low, sell high, but real life isn't so forgiving. When you try to guess the exact peaks and troughs, you usually end up worse off. In fact, hitting perfect market timing is almost impossible for most of us. That's exactly why Buffett once said that trying to time a market is both impossible and foolish. Let's look at some numbers. Imagine you took $10,000 in January 2003 and bought the S&P 500, holding all the way through December 2022. By the end, you'd have about $64,844, over 6 times your original investment, for an annualized return of 9.8%. But if you happen to miss just the 10 best trading days in those 20 years, you'd end up with only $29,708, and your annualized return would drop to 5.6%. Miss the 20 best days, and you'd be down to $17,826, just a 2.9% annual return. Skip the 30 biggest up days, and you'd have only $11,701, less than 1% per year. Scary, right? Just 30 days out of roughly 5,300 trading sessions over 2 decades can wipe out what would otherwise be stellar gains. And it gets worse: if you miss the top 40, 50, or 60 up days, you'd actually lose money over that period. That shows how brutal it is. Missing just a handful of the biggest rallies can decimate your returns. So, when do those big up days happen? It turns out almost all of them come right after big market sell-offs. For example, the 4th best up day in that span was March 13th, 2020, when the S&P 500 jumped 9.29%. That was literally the day after the market's second worst session in 20 years. History tends to repeat. Just this past April, after yet another historic plunge, the market rebounded massively within days. On April 9th, 2025, the S&P shot up about 9.52%, one of the biggest single-day gains in the last decade, even though the broader trend was still down. Professional traders can't reliably duck the crashes and then instantly catch those snapback rallies, much less the rest of us. In other words, when you're convinced the market is unsafe, you almost always end up missing the biggest bounces. That's why, for most everyday investors, it's smarter to adopt a simple, dumb buy and hold strategy rather than overthink it. History shows that just holding on can easily net you 6+ times your money over the long haul. Of course, layering in basic trend signals or tweaking your position size here and there can add a little extra polish. The key is, don't chase it when the market's euphoric, and don't bail out when everyone's panicking. As Buffett puts it, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. All right, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and share. I'm Ryan. See you next time.